Hi everybody, it's Joni Young here. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be showing you how to paint a Christmas scene, kind of vintage, nostalgic looking in watercolors. So I wanted to make this video for you guys in hopes that you give watercolor a try. And I wanted to let you know, and maybe you know this already, but I do have a secondary YouTube channel and it's called Joni's World of Watercolor. So I love painting with watercolors just as much as I do with acrylics. So I'm gonna introduce you guys to what my watercolor channel is kind of like through this tutorial today. And then I'll have a link below for that watercolor channel. So please go and join it. It's very new and I'm trying to grow it. And I would appreciate you guys all helping and giving me some support over there. That being said, let's go ahead and get started with this painting. So today I'm going to be showing you guys how to paint a vintage little church in the background, minimal detail. It's all about less is more, and we're going to have that in muted tones. I'm going to be using some green, brown, a little bit of black, and just keep it really thin, neutral, muted. And then we're going to have a pop of color with some cute little candy canes, one up here and one down here. They're both going to be facing the image, the center of interest, which is the little church inside with a little faded fence. You're gonna have it all kind of blurry and misty, and how watercolor just does its thing. And I can't wait to show you guys how to do this. So I'm just gonna let you know the size of the paper I'm using. This is watercolor paper. It's cold pressed and it's acid free. Feel free to paint this on canvas too, or if you don't want to try watercolor, do it in acrylics. So I'm just gonna measure this out. This is 9 by 12. And I've got some, it's off of a bigger sheet of paper here, but I just have my tape on here to separate that. I've got a plastic sheet here and just to protect the paper underneath. And I'll be using this side for another tutorial coming up with a lamppost, a little village in the back, and some stairs coming up. So stay tuned for that one. That will be on my watercolor channel. And let's go ahead and get started. I'm just going to show you some of the brushes and colors and things I'm using today for this. I've got eraser. I'm showing you the brand in case you guys are curious. And I've got black velvet, silver, 0 round, 10 round. I've got a pencil because I'm going to be sketching out my candy canes with some holly berries on them. And then I've got a jar or a jug of water here off to the side. I've got quite a few beautiful colors here to choose from. And if you guys want a little tip on how to keep your watercolors from drying out, just give them a little mist with a spray bottle. Keep them in the fridge if you have a really hot room and it's dry, but this really helps. I like having a little water bottle on hand. And I've also got some titanium white acrylic gouache. So a lot of watercolor artists actually prefer to use gouache for their white because watercolor white can be a little bit lifeless and dull. However, I'm going to show how to use both of those in upcoming tutorials. I don't know if I'll be using any white today for this tutorial, but I've got some reds here, green, black, brown, and we're just going to go ahead and jump into this and get started. So the first thing I want to do is sketch out my candy canes. And if you want to trace yours and have like a perfect shaped candy cane, go ahead. I like to just freehand mine, and if they're a little lopsided or, you know, the measurements aren't perfect, I'm fine with that. I like things to be a little bit imperfect and have just focus on the character, the color, light, and shadow. So I'm just going to take my pencil here and I'm going to start with, so we'll start down here at the bottom of the candy cane. We're going to go up, curve over. I'll bring this down a little lower. Once I get the shape that I want, again, not going for anything completely perfect, but somewhat uniform. Then I will come inside with my eraser and just clean up the edges. We're going to be going over this with a very light gray as well. And we're going to be having some, just the end of our candy cane, just a little loop like that on the end. And then what we're going to do is start creating the swirls and spacing them out a little bit, right? And then the last one right there. Okay, and then we're going to have another one here. I'm going to take off a little bit of the width right here. And this little line here on the bottom. I'll bring that down just a little farther. Now it will look more rounded and circular once we start adding these, and then I'm going to show you a really effective way to make the ribbons on the candy cane look shiny and 3D. So let's go ahead and start adding these stripes. Feel free to make yours a little thicker or thinner if you want. Okay, there we go. And we're also going to have some berries in here. So we're just going to erase a little bit right here to add our berries. We'll come down gradually though. 1, 2, we'll just do 3 berries like so. Let's do the same thing over here. I might not need to erase anything, so let's just go ahead and add those 3 berries. And now we're going to come in with some simple ivy leaves. So we're going to scoop, 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 and then bring it down. So this one on the end will be the longest. And this one's going to go past. And then we'll have a second, or one that's right under this one. Okay, and then we'll start on this one here. Scoop, scoop, and a third that sticks out more, and then bring it in narrower. Scoop, scoop. Okay, just like that. And now we can go ahead and paint these in. My favorite part, I definitely prefer painting than sketching. So I'm going to be using my small brush here. This is the 0 silver. I'm going to get my brush wet, and I'm going to go into this beautiful red here. This is like a crimson red, and I'm going to start, because I'm left-handed, or if you're right-handed, you know, you want to make sure that you're not getting your hand in the way. So the best way for me to do this is to start down here. So I'm going to just be filling that in and then going on to the next one. Now watercolors dry a little bit lighter, so keep that in mind, and the more water that you use with your watercolors, the lighter that will dry. And both ways are really effective and important with learning to paint with watercolors. They give you different outcomes. Okay, let's go ahead here. Add just a little bit more water. Now I'm normally I would say a pretty fast painter with acrylics, but doing stuff like this with watercolor, I guess even if I was using acrylic, this just slows me down and it's very calming. Okay, so I'm going to come over here now, wrap it around, twist. And again, you can follow along with this painting in acrylics, gouache, whatever medium you prefer. The techniques may be a little bit different, but if you like this image and you want to paint it, go ahead, enjoy yourselves. It's all about creating a calm, creative, and safe place here for everybody to just relax and paint along. Okay, I'm going to paint these berries as well. I'm going to go around the edges. And then what I'm going to do is just rinse my brush out. I'm going to dry it off. And I'm going to come down here, and this is what I'm going to show you, how you can just gently blend off the center only, and you're going to get a shine to this candy red. It's going to make it look a little bit more satiny. I was watching a video on how they make, like, candy factories, like old-fashioned ones, how they make like those ribbon candies, you know, that were always in a pretty crystal dish at Christmas time. At least I remember them always being on the table before and after dinner. And they look really shimmery, like just the way that they look. And so how they were doing it was they get the candy to a certain temperature, right? The sugar and whatever else goes in there, I don't remember. And then they get it to a certain texture, and then they put it on this hook, and they just pull, twist, wrap it around the hook, and just do that repeatedly. Pull, twist, and wrap it, loop it on the hook. And then it keeps getting lighter and lighter and lighter until it's got these satiny, softer looks. But you see how this just really makes it stand out and looks a little more 3D. Now we're also going to use a little bit of light gray and shade the candy cane as well. But I'm going to move on to this one down here. And I'm gonna go back over to my red. I'm gonna start on the tip here. So this scene would make a really pretty Christmas card too. You could do little Christmas cards with just the candy cane. With a pretty on a Christmas ornament too. I've been meaning to create a new Christmas ornament tutorial as well. I feel like I'm running out of time. I have so many projects on the go. I feel like there's just not enough time in the day for all the things that I want to do. Plus we have a new puppy, Minnie, our Pomeranian, and she keeps us on our toes. So we have 2 dogs now. I have a video here on my channel introducing Minnie and also celebrating when I hit 400,000 subscribers here. I think I have even more now. I think it's maybe 410,000, which just blows my mind. I still can't believe it. And I'm hoping that my watercolor channel gets as many views, because it's really my passion to teach you guys how to paint and create, because it brings a lot of healing. Just going to go over these edges, making them a little darker now, because you can see how as it's drying a little bit darker, like I mentioned watercolor does. So just enhancing the edges a little bit more with some more of that red. Can really help to make it look more 3D. And I love creating the illusion of something being 3D, but not so much as to, like, you know, I want it to look like hyper realistic. I'm really blown away by that kind of art, but it's not something that I enjoy doing. Okay, so now we're gonna go in here and take off a little bit of the, just gently wiggling, wiping the excess off on a towel, rinsing your brush if you pick up too much paint. You don't want your brush to be too wet or too dry. If you happen to make it too wet, just dab it off with a Q-tip or a towel. So again, I'm creating a watercolor tutorial for you guys. I'm making this watercolor tutorial here on my acrylic channel so that I can let you guys know, if you don't know already, that I have a watercolor channel as well, Joni's World of Watercolor. So be sure to check that out. Just got a little bit of pink there, but I think that's fine. So just taking off a little bit. I want to take just a little bit more off on these. So I'm just doing the same thing over and over again here. What you don't want to do is scrub too hard, because then you disrupt the paper and you're going to be left with kind of chunky looking paper. Okay, so I'm just gonna get these dabs off of here. And I'm gonna outline my berries. And I'm gonna paint my berries a brighter red here. This one's more of like a naphthol or pyrrole red. And I'm just gonna dab, dab, dab. I'm gonna leave a little bit white. And if it happens to not stay white, and if it ends up bleeding into the paper, then I'm just gonna come in with some white, because we just wanna add a little bit of a highlight. A little white highlight on our berries. I really like using these brushes because you can use them to create thicker brush strokes or use them as little detailing brushes. Okay, so now what I want to do is come around with a little bit of, I'm going to take a little bit of blue and a little bit of coal black. This is cobalt blue and coal black. I'm going to just have a teeny tiny amount on my brush. So really just water it down like this and then dab excess off on towel. And I want to just go over the edges here. Give us a little bit of a 3D effect. If you want, you could. I like that there's a little bit of red coming out with it, but if you don't want that, I would recommend either waiting for it to dry longer or starting off with this step first before you come in with your red. So I'm just gonna wrap this around, just carefully outline this. So this is how you can really make something stand out, especially on a white background, making it look 3D, because there is white in the candy cane, so that can be a little bit tricky. Sorry, that's my little heater in here. Sometimes it makes some obnoxious noises. Okay, so now we're going to come in and do the same thing here. I was so excited last night after coming up with some ideas for watercolor paintings. I mean, I had a hard time falling asleep because I didn't want to wait. I felt like a kid. I love being able to still feel that excitement at the age I am. It's wonderful if you can find something that makes you feel that excited. And I'm going to go around and outline these berries. Take a little bit more of the blue and the black. Just make them stand out a little bit more. I like showing you guys as much as I can in my tutorials. Okay, I'm going to rinse that out and have that light go back to the same light color. It's a bit too light. Let me just pick up a little bit more, and we're going to come down the edges of our candy cane, and then we'll add that little loop for the bottom. Then we're going to come in and paint the holly leaves. Okay, we're ready to come in with our green now. So I'm going to take this brilliant green. It's called Brilliant Green. It's a very similar green to sap green, I would say. Make sure I don't have any drips. Drips always get me. And I think I'll start up here with this one. So we're just going to outline. And if you don't want to run the risk of making them bigger than what they are, go inside. That's your safe zone if you have a problem with going out of the lines. Okay, let's take some more and just keep going here. So this is a bit of a longer tutorial for you guys here. Not all of my tutorials will be this long on my watercolor channel. I'm really wanting to keep it within the 20 to 30 minute range. I think a lot of people's attention spans have shortened, unfortunately, over the course of the last decade. All these shorts and, you know, TikToks and things like that, people just feel like they need instant gratification all the time, and it's kind of sad actually, because everyone's looking for shortcuts all the time, and what you don't realize is you're losing out when you're in a rush all the time, and good things take time. Things that are worth having take time, and you really want to hone your craft and be able to. I'm going to take a little bit more water and just come in here. You've got to put the time in, and you've got to train yourself. It can be hard, but you've got to train your brain to relax and develop more patience. There are some shortcuts, of course, with painting, but not everything's going to be able to, you can't do an entire painting in a shortcut type of way. But we instructors can definitely help guide you guys in the right direction. Whereas, you know, if you're just painting without ever learning anything, it can take a lot longer. I know that because I am a self-taught artist, Just so you know how old I am, this gives you some idea. We didn't have YouTube when I was a young married mom, and I had 3 little kids. I probably told this story so many times, but I've always got new subscribers and new viewers popping in. I taught myself everything. I didn't have books to go by. I don't know why I didn't think of, I don't know, maybe I was just wanting to just get into painting. It was kind of an outlet for me when my kids were napping from a chaotic day with them or whatever, having 3 kids under the age of 5. You know, I just really wanted to just sit down and create something. I wasn't thinking of being professional by any means. I'm gonna add a little bit more black to this one under here because it's gonna have a bit of a shadow. It's gonna be dark right under this one. Hope that makes sense to you guys, right? When something's over top of something, it's gonna cast a shadow. Okay, then I'm gonna rinse that out. But that being said, I notice if I watch other tutorials just out of curiosity to see how somebody else instructs, my techniques are a little bit different, and that's what makes my channel unique, because I developed my skills on my own over the years. So a lot of people find my instructions just more down to earth and not intimidating. I don't like to use big words. I just like basic steps, you know, that anybody can do. What I'm going to do now is take my larger brush, my number 10, and it's a little bit wet. I'm just going to dab off those drips, and I'm just going to come in and create a little bit of light on some of the areas here. And then if it's a bit too puddly, just take a little towel. So I'm just coming inside, kind of pushes that paint to the outer pokey edges there, which is nice because then it adds a little bit more depth. But see what I mean? These brushes are so cool because you've got that pointiness, so you can fit that in, those little pokey narrow parts, and then you can use a little bit more pressure and width of the brush to fill in the thicker, bigger areas. Okay, I'm just going to continue down here and just lightly pushing that out. We just want to create some lighter areas. This one's a little bit lighter already on this end because we want that to be darker there. I am just gonna take a little bit more off this guy over here. Now you can come in and add a few little faint lines. You really don't need a lot of paint when it comes to watercolor. I'm gonna just go ahead and add a little bit more black and green. Dab off the excess on my towel and gently blend this out. So now it looks more shadowed, shaded, however you want to put it. Same with right here as we get really close into these berries. These little berries and where the tips of the leaves here will have a little bit of shadow on them. Okay, so I think that we are done this stage of painting. Now we can come in and add our muted tones, little trees, just very, very simple, barely any effort at all. Okay, I'm really excited to show you guys how to do this. So the first thing I'm going to do is take my smallest brush, my little 0 here. I'm going to get it wet, and I'm going to go into a little bit of, I'm going to take a little bit of white as well. This is the white watercolor. I wanted to clarify that because at the beginning of the video I was mentioning a lot of watercolor artists, including myself, prefer to use acrylic wash white. But for this, I'm just going to use a little bit of green, black, and brown. I want to create a warm grayish tone, and I think I've got that here. I think this is really pretty, and I think it's thin enough. I can go ahead, and we're just going to start with just a few little sweeps like this, kind of curved in. I'm going to add a little bit more water for a little tree, just a little tree here, and then I'm going to have another one down here, not too far down. A little bit more water, and I'm going to add a few little branches. And I'm just placing my pinky here. This is really important to know, because if not, you're going to end up with not the types of thin, wispy lines that you want. You have a little bit more control and stability just simply by placing your pinky there. I'm going to just take a little bit of this off now, and I'm just going to wiggle out. Quickly hop over to my larger brush here. I'm going to add a little bit of extra water, and I'm just going to tap, tap, tap. I'm going to go around the edges with a little bit of water. And then we're not going to fuss too much or fiddle too much. We're going to just let that watercolor do its thing. This is how you just want it. Make it fuzzy and blurry around the edges. And I'm just going to continue with this before it sets into the paper too much. I'm going to add a little bit of fuzziness here, and then I'm going to add my few little branches, which I'm not going to lie is a little bit tricky because I've got my holly leaf in the way there. The first practice one of this that I came up with last night, I was just hanging out with my dogs, watching some TV, and I was just kind of really doodling around and brainstorming ideas, having fun, really. Anyways, I think I had it placed. I was working on a bigger piece of paper too. So I've got a few little branches in there, and I've got this bigger one now with a little bit of water. And I'm just gonna start to wiggle. It's just about creating kind of a barely there image. Just gonna tap in a few little blobs here in between the holly. Yeah, I'm not too worried if I end up picking up a little bit of red or green. It's not a big deal. I'm just gonna pull and sweep off a little bit in there. Okay, and then I'm gonna just kind of just start to wiggle, making somewhat of a path, and then I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger, like wider over here, and blur out the edges. So tip of the brush, little pressure, and then a little bit more width in the brush. And I'm just kind of being a little shaky, coming in with a secondary line here. Oh, just a really simple. And now I'm going to come in with a little church. I'm going to take some more black, brown, and green. Get a little bit more green in there. Just a little bit. This is wet and wet here. This is going to expand and change a little bit as it dries. We'll add a little fence. So just a few lines here. They don't have to be perfectly straight up and down. And then just a little line through there. Okay, I'm gonna rinse this brush out. I'm gonna come around and blur this area up down here. Let some of this color bleed out a little bit. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of water here. A little bit more paint. Just on a few of these here. Okay, again, this is going to dry a little bit paler. Now let's come in with our church. We're going to just create simple shapes to break down to form a church. Okay, so we're just going to start with a peak like that. We're going to bring it down a little bit lower. We're going to create a shaded overhang roof line. So just make this one a little thicker. And then we're going to come down, down. We're going to go over to the side. We're going to leave a little space. And then we're going to come up here with the steeple. There's just a little rectangle here. And then we're going to add a line in the middle, off to the side, and then a little cross on the top. I'm going to get my brush wet. And we're going to shade just by using a little bit of water. And then I'm going to take a little bit more paint. And I'm going to go and add a line to make it look 3D down the center here. And just go over these lines again. Just a little bit of water to loosen up some of this. And then I'm just going to scoop down, give that a little few little arched windows if you feel like it. If not, just keep it simple. And then we'll add if you want, add a few little crosses in for the grid in the windows. Okay, and then I'm just going to come down and add a line for the center of the door. So there's 2 doors, a little dab on either side. And then we're going to add a few lines that go diagonally for the stairs. Then we're going to come down and add a little railing. and just blending out a little bit more there. Bring that up a little higher. Bring this over. And then I just want to catch the end here with a little bit of water. And kind of just blur that up. Taking a little bit out of focus, so we're just left with a little bit of those lines there. Now, what I can also show you guys how to do is add maybe a little bit of snow or a little bit of extra white. I'm just gonna go over this here with a white. It's gonna dry a little bit lighter than this. So you can add just a little bit here and there. I mean, it really doesn't need much more. I think it's just nice how it is. I think if anything, I just want to blur up these lines a little bit more. And I'm just gonna dab off a little puddle. Added a little bit too much water there. And then I'm just gonna sign my painting. A little bit more. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this one. Head over to Joni's World of Watercolor, my second YouTube channel, to see many more watercolor videos. I've got lots to show you, lots to teach you, lots to keep you inspired, motivated over the cold holiday season. I'll see you guys all soon in my next video. Bye!